Hey everybody, welcome into the HUBCast. It is Tuesday, September 6th. I'm Adam Alexander, and along for the ride today, my producer friends.
Yeah, Max Harnett.
Russell Wenrich.
All right, you guys aren't giving titles, you're just giving names today?
I don't know
is that it?
I don't know how this works anymore.
Okay, all right, we'll just roll with it. Names are good enough. And we appreciate you watching on Facebook Live. And if you have some thoughts, send them in. We're going to try to answer some of your questions later in the show. CJ feverishly working over here on the computer to get your thoughts here on the program.
Click-clacks of the typing going on.
And
we
do have some nice new enhancements. So if you're a part of Facebook Live watching on YouTube, you will see that the HUBCast is going through a tremendous amount of growth. And if you're not watching and you're just listening, we appreciate you being with us on iTunes and Google Play. Let's start out. One of the biggest races of the year, the final crown jewel. Martin Truex Jr. now a winner of 2 of the 4 this season. Probably didn't have the fastest car, but another popular win and one of the real good guys able to pull in victory lane. What'd you guys think on Sunday?
I enjoyed the race. I mean, I think the Southern 500 is always a good race. I think Darlington's a good racetrack. It always provides good entertainment. I thought, in terms of races this year, I thought it was one of the better races this year overall in terms of what we saw on track with the side-by-side and the passing. And I mean, you name it, pretty much every level of NASCAR got hit, whether it was pit road or passing for the lead or points battles and all that kind of stuff. I thought it had a little bit of everything.
And a lot of guys had to come back in this race. You know, qualifying was rained out. When Hurricane Hermine moved through on Friday, NASCAR shuffled the schedule, elected to go with practice only on Saturday instead of qualifying. That put Kevin Harvick on the pole based on owner points. Kevin had a great race car, and he was putting a lot of good cars a lap down early, which meant those long green flag runs, there were guys that had to scramble to find their way back on the lead lap to compete. It made it an interesting first half of this race, really.
Yeah, you had, I think, 26 guys take the wave around at one point because of the way it all shuffled out. And it being the longest race of the year, you had time to come back and make it all make sense and work its way out.
A record 18 cautions there in 2015. We had 10 the other night, but most of those coming in the second half of the race, which allowed a lot of guys to get back on the lead lap.
8 of the 10 were in the second half of the race.
There you go. So it was a very tame opening half of the Southern 500, not so much in the second half. And I think when you look at Martin Truex Jr., first question on Truex and the 78 team, and you see him celebrating here if you're watching us on YouTube or joining us with Facebook Live, and that is, have they become the championship frontrunner? I look, they're spending an awful lot of time up front, and I think what puts it over the top for me and says, yes, right now, to me, they are the team to beat. They're winning races at a rate that Truex never has, and this team never has. First time they've won multiple races in a season, both driver and organization. The other thing I like about Truex is just the schedule. And I
mile and a half tracks.
Yeah, I don't want to put an asterisk by making him a championship favorite because they've been great all year long.
Sure.
But nobody has been as good, in particular at the evening time mile and a half, which we have a number of in the chase, than that 78 team and Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, same thought. The mile and a half tracks in the chase, there's so many of them. It sets up so well for Martin Truex Jr.
He's been good everywhere, though.
He has, absolutely.
So we had 25 races already this year. He's had some kind of problem in 19 of them.
Yeah.
Like some kind of issue, whether it's on pit road, he spun, a penalty, a weird mechanical issue. So he could have won. He should have probably won 5 races this year already.
Does that hold him back from being a favorite, though,
no,
because of all those issues?
I think it makes him more of a favorite because it's very similar to Kevin Harvick in 2014. They had all kinds of problems beginning half of the year, kind of went into the chase, kind of behind because of how many problems they had, and went into the chase and were just incredible.
Yeah, and I said it earlier this year. There are a lot of similarities, I think, when you look at Martin Truex Jr. and that 78 team and how they compare to Kevin Harvick when he won a championship in his first year at Stewart-Haas back in 2014. The only other thing I would throw out here, and again, I'm in the line that right now you say the 78 is the favorite to win the championship. The only other thing I would throw out there right now as a concern, we talk about the problems. The other would maybe be potential distraction. Let's not forget, they're starting a second team next year. And I think the expectations are going to be high with that second team. You look at what Joe Gibbs was able to do when they added a fourth team. They didn't do this, so we're going to ease our way into it. They fully expected Carl Edwards to come out of the gate, win races, and compete for a championship, and I think they've gotten the results to back that up. I think the same mentality is going to be there with Furniture Row. Does that come with a sacrifice to the end of this year? I would say probably not, and I can give some reasons why in a moment, but what do you guys think? Is there any distraction or reason for concern in that category?
I tend to lean towards no, only because I think this is a thing that's been on their minds and on their workbenches for a while now, and it hasn't seemed to affect them so far. I mean, it's been announced for a couple weeks now, and then they went out and won the Southern 500. So I think there's your proof that it doesn't bother them.
So I would say yes and no. The yes part is they're redoing their whole shop, like to make room for this additional team. But the reason I say no, and it's an advantage for them, is they've already started hiring other people, and those other people are going to help the 78 this year towards the end of the year. They're going to have extra people to help out. Like the main focus is going to be the 78 car the rest of the year, even though they're already building cars for next year.
We made the point about mile and a halves. The opening race in the Chase is at Chicagoland. That's the only mile and a half in that opening round. Also go to New Hampshire and Dover. Dover, the track that Martin, I guess, in a way would say is his home track, and that's where he got his first career victory years and years ago. After that, and you got to believe this team running at the level they're running on, regardless win or not in the opening round, they will advance. You get to round two. Charlotte and Kansas on the schedule in round two. You know, certainly we all remember what he did at Charlotte in the springtime.
Yeah, and that's another Saturday race. I mean, that's
right, a night
Saturday
race.
Night race. To me, that would be the one race I'd say he probably has the best shot of winning in the whole
But
Chase.
I mean, when you look at the schedule, and you follow this really closely from a statistical standpoint, Russell, is there a potential hiccup anywhere for them, or do you feel pretty confident in the way the tracks lay out and the way those mile and a halves are spread out over the course of the Chase?
I think the third round is the only question mark, but then you still have Texas in there.
Yep.
So I would say no. I feel pretty good about it for them.
Okay, good. So I think we're all in agreement there. The other thing I want to do is put in perspective the run that he's had in 2016. We just talked about it. He won the Coke 600 in the most dominating fashion we've ever seen. You look at him winning the Southern 500, 8th in Indianapolis. We'll never forget what he did in the season opening race at Daytona. So Martin's average finish in the 4 Crown Jewels in 2016 is third. And I thought that's really, really good. But you look at the board, it's barely better than Denny Hamlin this year, who's at 3.25. He won the Daytona 500, 4th in the other 3 Crown Jewel races. And I always remember 2010 for Jamie McMurray because he won Daytona and Indianapolis. But runner-up finishes in the Coke 600 and Southern 500 in 2010, Jamie McMurray, 1.5 average finish in the 4 Crown Jewel races. Now, we can leave this up here because we got the graphic there for fans to digest. Just unheard of the seasons some drivers have had over the years when you talk about the 4 big races on the schedule.
When I looked that up, it blew my mind, McMurray. Like it's just amazing to think 1.5 over those 4 biggest races of the year.
Jeff Gordon is next in line at 1.75. It was in 1997 when he won.
He won 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4 and was 4th in the other, I believe. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson in 2006 averaged a 2nd place finish at the 4 big ones. 2000, a good year for Bobby Labonte. And we talked about this year for Truex. Gordon's on the list twice. He averaged a 3rd place finish at the 4 big tracks in 1994. Interesting stuff. And we don't talk about that a lot. It was on my mind because I knew that Truex had won those 2 races and certainly how close he was in the Daytona 500. And the numbers certainly speak volumes when you talk about the history of the sport and what drivers have been able to accomplish in the 4 Crown Jewel races.
To me, it's more shocking that you have 2 guys from this year on that list right there.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible to me. Yeah. I mean, you've seen there before. I mean, it'll happen. Guys go on a good run. They're having a great year. But to have 2 guys on that list all time is pretty incredible.
And Toyota, I believe, has now won 7 consecutive races in the Crown Jewel events. It started with Carl Edwards in the Coke 600 last year. Kyle Busch won at Indy. Carl won the Southern 500. And then all 4 races this year won by Toyotas. Let's move forward now. And the one that got away for Kevin Harvick, and this is the movie that we've seen so many times before. Harvick leads 214 laps. We talked earlier about the fact there was no qualifying. He starts on the pole. By far and away the best car there on Sunday night. There's no debating that. There's no denying that they were the team to beat. Twice had problems on pit road, and they came at critical times.
Yeah.
Lap 241, I believe it was, 251, and 281. We're seeing one of the stops here if you're watching on one of our video networks, but they had a 17-second stop and a 14-second stop. And in all, they lost 17 positions on pit road on Sunday night.
Over 3 stops.
Over 3 stops, right. So this wasn't just something that was spread out over 10 or 11 stops in the race. They had a couple of 3 that really, really hurt them.
In all, in the last 120 laps.
Yeah, which we had that run of cautions because you want tires at Darlington. You're pretty much going to pit every time. They came down and in most situations had the race lead and lost it and paid the price. What do you guys think there, and how concerning is that for Kevin Harvick as we go into the playoffs? Because, as we said, this is something that they have been dealing with not just throughout 2016, but really dating back to his first year at Stewart-Haas in 2014.
This goes back to we were talking about Truex being maybe the favorite for the chase. I think if it wasn't for these pit stop issues, I'd say Kevin Harvick would be my favorite for the chase. Those guys have been so fast all year. It doesn't seem to matter where they go. Those guys have one of the fastest cars week in, week out. But I do think that maybe not in the first couple rounds because you have enough leeway there to kind of, does a first or a second make a big difference? No, he's probably going to advance. But when you hit that third round or Homestead, that can easily cost you a championship.
The other thing I would say about that, and there's been a lot of people beating him up, and I know we talked about it Monday on NASCAR Race Hub. Jeff Hammond was here, and Jeff didn't mix any words. Kevin Harvick was really hard on his team. And Jeff said that's justified because as a driver, you go out and you deliver and you deliver and you deliver, and then you have it taken away from you on pit road. It's unfair. You got to get it fixed. We've seen too much of it. And I understand Kevin's frustration, and I don't think anybody knows. There's been a lot of judgment on Kevin Harvick and how he's handling it. Now, I think it's easy to say, be better to your guys, and is it productive to chew on them publicly? And I get that, and I think conventional wisdom would say, no, it doesn't make the most sense. We don't know the relationship that he has with them. We don't know what discussions have happened behind closed doors to see some of these same problems crop up. The only thing I would say is this. Is it a problem? Absolutely 100%. But you cannot argue with the results that Ford team has churned out since Kevin Harvick went over there in 2014. We've got a graphic to go up. In 3 seasons at Stewart-Haas, Kevin Harvick driving 2+ seasons now as we get set for the playoffs. 97 starts. He's won 10 times, okay? But what if you add line 2 and line 3? 10 wins, 23 runner-ups. That means 33 times in 97 starts, more than a third of the time they're first or second. He's led over 5,600 laps in not even 3 full seasons. And if we finish 2016 and he goes on the same run that you would guess he will between now and the end of the year, he's going to compile over 6,000 laps led, over 2,000 laps a year. I look at these numbers. And oh, by the way, a championship and the only driver to go to the Final Four in both years that we've had this format. Is there a problem? Yes. Have there been times they should have gotten a better result because they had a problem on pit road? No doubt about it. But when you just put up the numbers, it's pretty hard to argue with the success and what they've been able to accomplish.
The championship obviously being the crown there is they've done it. They've made it all the way to that's the ultimate goal, and they've accomplished that. To me, though, the number that's surprising is the 10 wins. I think about the last 3 years he's been with Stewart-Haas Racing. That guy's a contender to win every single week. And the fact that he only has 10 wins.
So you think it should be more?
I think it should be way more. I mean, you look at 23 runner-ups. The guy's unbelievably fast. Rodney puts a great car on the track every week. They should have at least another 7 or 8 wins easily. You could say they should have 15 more wins, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, we're out here to win championships, and they put him in a chance to win a championship both years.
Yeah.
Like they didn't screw him out of a championship last year. It was Kyle Busch was just that much better.
How do we, you and I were talking about this, Russell, before we came in, and I'd be interested to get your take too. It's football season now. where does the pit crew fall in? This is a team sport.
Yeah.
Compare the pit crew, okay, to a position on the football field. Where do you weigh in?
I don't know if I'd go position. I'd say something like special teams. You don't see them that much. You don't think of them as being a crucial part of the game. But if they get
but when they screw up,
you're going to hear about it because they have a block punt return for a touchdown. You let a kick return go for a touchdown. That takes all the air out of the rest of the team.
So when we were talking, I related it to a punter, or no, a kicker, field goal kicker. Like the pressure on them is immense. Like to win the game
because they're working in boxes that are really, really small. That have huge impacts.
But they're paid to get that job done, and if they don't get the job done, they're cut. You see kickers cut all the time because they screwed up the game.
I like that a lot.
Same concept.
Well, I think about this. You know what? The pit crew did their job in the first 200 laps of that race, right? First 300 laps.
Doesn't matter.
Okay? And that's just like chip shot field goals from 30 yards, and I'm making my extra points. And now I got a 43-yarder with the game on the line to win it, and I push it wide right. I am absolutely the GOAT. And my quarterback, the driver, put all this time in, made all those great back shoulder throws and hit the guy over the middle and called the right audible to the run instead of the pass and put us in position to win. And I can't hit the field goal to finish the deal. I think it's a really good comparison. And gut feeling, you think they get this fixed as we roll toward the chase? What do you guys think?
100% fixed? No, but I think it's all about timing. You make those mistakes earlier in the race, and you nail your pit stops at the end of the race. It's all forgiven because it doesn't matter. So I think it's all about timing. I don't think they get it 100% fixed, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last we hear of it for this year.
I wouldn't rule this out either. I know that they don't have the luxury, as I said earlier, of just bringing over a different pit crew, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors to facilitate some changes, or what opportunities exist in that category. But there's no guarantee. While we think Harvick, based on his resume, will easily get through the opening round of the chase, there's no guarantee that those other guys will. Maybe they will. I mean, I think Tony and Kurt have done some positive things.
Yeah.
But the pool becomes a little bigger after the opening round of the chase, potentially for other pit crew guys.
Sure.
You know, if Tony's eliminated, Kurt's eliminated, now all of a sudden you can make a change. And certainly this isn't unprecedented. We have seen crew swaps throughout the chase in years past.
And Stewart-Haas provides crews for other teams as well.
Yes.
So they could pull from that as well.
Yeah, and everybody wants their opportunity to shine, and will continue to write the history books on where Kevin Harvick is and where he lands in 2016 with the pit crew. All right, maybe we save the best for last a little bit when you talk about our talking points. I was just thoroughly entertained Sunday afternoon watching the truck race, and if you missed regulation, you missed nothing because everything happened in overtime.
Doesn't matter.
Cole Custer, we have a chase this year in the Camping World Truck Series. Cole Custer, driving that 00 truck for Dale Jr., has not won. He needs to win if he's going to make the chase. He dominated this event. John Hunter Nemechek has won. He's in. Final turn, final lap, they got together. There was contact. Then John Hunter Nemechek, after trying to do the bump and run and really not executing it great, I mean, I don't know that it was going to be successful, just simply turns into Custer. They're in the grass, and there's a strip of grass that'll support two trucks to the left side of the track as you come down the front straightaway.
I didn't know it supported two trucks until
I didn't know exactly how wide it was, but I figured out it's about two trucks wide. They come across the start-finish line in the grass. And it certainly would appear that once Nemechek got him on the wall, he just kept him there, kept his foot in the gas, and was not going to let off until he got the checkered flag.
Yeah.
NASCAR reviewed it, and one of the things that took some time to review, quite honestly, was the video replay. Because while it's not uncommon for NASCAR to use video replay to determine who wins, in this situation it was really necessary because there are no scoring loops off the asphalt. They did not cross the scoring loop when they came across the start-finish line, so the computer would not have given you who won the race.
Yeah, our scoring system had Daniel Hemrick as the winner.
Because he was the first guy to cross the finish line on track. I look at how that race played out. And one, I was disappointed for Cole Custer because I thought it would be cool to see another winner, and he was in a must-win situation. The points are not going to allow him to make the chase, or at least you wouldn't believe. What what do you guys think here, and how much is too much even on the final lap of a race?
It was too much. I think it was. Well, I have two thoughts on it. I think it was too much. I think he wrecked him. It was not a good move. Was not a fair move, in my opinion. But I'm also hesitant to, hang the guy out to dry because it wasn't so egregious that it made me go like it wasn't dirty, in my opinion. We've seen some really dirty on-track stuff with Kyle Busch and Ron Hornaday. And you could even go back to Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano. It was kind of outside the lines of racing. To me, this was all within the confines of racing. Do I agree with the move? No. Do I think it was a bad move? Absolutely. Do I think it's the worst thing I've ever seen? Not even close.
And I think part of this is, and you can't help but let these sentiments weigh in a little bit, is the fact that John Hunter Nemechek does have a win and is locked into the chase.
Sure.
He won earlier this season at Atlanta. So regardless of what the outcome was on track on Sunday, John Hunter is going to be a part of the championship equation. Cole Custer does not have a win, and as we said, he needs to win to get in. And so I think there were some that thought not that John Hunter shouldn't race him for a win. Absolutely, John Hunter's got every right to go after that checkered flag that anybody does. But I do think that, once you do the bump and run, not executed, you turn them in. Now all of a sudden you're doing some things that we, even on the final lap, I think have crossed the line of what we would want to see in the area of clean racing.
See, I don't like that you say, oh, it was the final lap. Like, what would NASCAR have done to John Hunter Nemechek if he would have done that on lap 30?
Yeah, and should it be different? Should they officiate different at lap 30 versus the final lap? What do you guys think?
He manipulated the outcome of that race. Like, no matter how you look at it, he manipulated how that race ended and how the championship is going to be won by doing that. Because Cole Custer's season's over if he doesn't win at Chicago.
Yeah.
He dominated that weekend, was fast in practice, won the pole, and was the fastest. He would have led all the laps if it hadn't have been for pit strategy. Mm-hmm. Like, he was blatantly the fastest truck.
How would you have felt if it was the other way around? Custer without a win, putting Nemechek into the fence.
I'll say this. A lot of drivers reached out on Twitter, and I'm not going to go back and talk about all those or anything. But I will say that Kyle Larson was one of those that spoke out on Twitter. And I won't paraphrase it, try to remember it. You can go read what Kyle said about it, okay? But I think he's the perfect guy to read. And the reason I say that is because go back to Dover.
Yeah.
And everybody, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people in the NASCAR community criticize Kyle Larson for not moving Matt Kenseth. And I'm not talking about doing something like what we saw on Sunday.
Just a bump.
Just a simple bump to get him out of the way because conventional wisdom was his car was faster. Would have been his first career win. Would have put him in the chase. And at that point, it certainly looked like he needed to win to get in the chase. He wasn't going to do it on points. And everybody criticized Kyle. And Kyle said, you know what, my time's coming. I'm going to get my chance. And you know what? He did. And when that opportunity came, he went and rang the bell. I've got to believe the satisfaction that he felt in victory lane at Michigan was far greater knowing that he did it that way. And it all worked out. He's gotten everything he would have attained by doing it another way at Dover. I just think that is a great baseline to operate by as a driver. And I don't think you ever want to punish someone for giving all they got. That's what we want. You want everybody to go after. You owe it to your sponsors, your team, everybody. I think John Hunter Nemechek wanted a little too much and crossed the line.
Yeah.
But that was his only chance to win. Like, he wasn't going to be able to win.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Way.
Yeah, and you know what? The history books say he won, and he doesn't have to apologize or take it back. And he hasn't apologized, and that's fine. You know what I mean? If you're going to run it that way, roll with it. And that's exactly what he's doing.
You know what I did like?
Yes.
So often we see these guys go after with helmets on. John Hunter Nemechek had his helmet on. Cole Custer.
Oh, yeah.
No helmet. He said, I don't care. I'm going after him anyways.
Well, here's the other thing I loved about it is, and I'm not big on, fighting and all that. We don't, I don't want to see that happen. I want to see guys get hurt and all those things.
Sure.
But what I'll say is he didn't do it with in this case, his race truck.
Yep.
Cole Custer didn't, number one. And number two, when he looked up, he climbed out of that truck on pit road, and he looked up and he saw John Hunter going over and looking up for the flag to claim I won the race. And he said, I can't take it anymore, and the emotion took over. And I love the fact that in this day and age of competition, where in a lot of circles everybody gets a trophy, Cole Custer said, I'm not going to put up with that. And I think that's to be commended, that someone still has that kind of passion. We got about 6 minutes left, 5 minutes. CJ, why don't you fire us off some the social interaction? What are you seeing?
All right, so we've had people submit questions and comments on Twitter using hashtag HUBCast, so thank you guys for doing that. One of the questions that I liked, Lawler_77 on Twitter said, 3 of the 4 finishes in Canada have been dramatic. Should NASCAR consider sending the Cup and Xfinity Series to Canada?
Well, I think we've talked on this program many times. We're an advocate of additional road course races at any level of NASCAR.
But Canada for sure.
Canada is a big market for NASCAR. I've experienced that firsthand when I went up there a couple of years ago. I will say this, though. It's probably maybe Xfinity, and we know Xfinity cars have gone north of the border and raced in Montreal. The Cup schedule is where the Cup schedule is going to be. They're not going to go to Canada anytime soon. But I put my hand in the air and vote. Yes, let's have more road course racing, and Canada would be a great backdrop. Any more?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Buck said, no, this is a big if, but if Kevin Harvick's pit crew can get it together, or he gets a new pit crew that can give him some fast stops, can anyone stop him in the chase?
Well, I think if it weren't for the pit crew miscues, then Kevin Harvick is the favorite. I mean, I said Martin Truex Jr. is.
Yeah.
But Kevin Harvick scored more points than anybody. And what I would do to give Kevin the nod over Martin is the consistency with which they run at every kind of track. Doesn't matter where we go. Kevin's a player, and that's why I would put my money on the 4 if they can clean up the messes on pit road.
It's close, though.
It's
really close.
It is, yeah. And like I said earlier, when you look at lap sled and that kind of thing, almost a mirror image of the 78 in 2016 of what the 4-car and that team did in 2014.
But this year, too. Like, Truex has led over 1,000 laps this year, too.
That's what I'm saying. What Truex has done this year in comparison to what Harvick did a couple of years ago.
And it's not really something that we talked about for the first little bit of the show, but Jordan wants to know what you guys think. Did Tony Stewart overreact Sunday with his situation with Brian Scott?
Oh, I thought it was probably smoke being smoke. I enjoyed his antics after the race, and is Tony ever overreacted?
I don't think so. He's usually pretty level-headed.
I don't remember him overreacting.
Yeah.
Did he wreck him on purpose? We still don't know.
Yeah, he didn't. He acted like he didn't even know the wreck happened when the race was over.
He said he wrecked. He said that Brian Scott wrecked, but he didn't know why.
He didn't know why.
So until we know for sure, I can't say.
When something doesn't have major implications on the chase or points and all that stuff, it's just fun to watch, man. Because smoke is always entertaining.
I will leave it at this on the Tony Stewart question. We've only got 11 more races to enjoy Tony Stewart.
Soak it in.
And Sunday night was quintessential smoke. Maybe 2 more. What do you got?
All right, so Carl, it's pretty simple yes or no question. Do you think John Hunter Nemechek and or Cole Custer deserve penalties?
I don't. Right now, I say no. I would have thought there was a chance that there could have been maybe a rough driving penalty at the end of that race for John Hunter Nemechek. There was not. I think, to me, it's too late now. I mean, I think that was a here and now penalty. I wouldn't, and I don't think, I would say there's a possibility that Cole Custer gets something, because I think NASCAR's kind of set a baseline on what they're going to allow guys to do for fighting and that kind of thing.
Sure.
How they view that, I don't know. But I would say at this point, knowing how things go, I would say Cole could get something. I don't know that John Hunter does at this stage. I don't know.
It'll be a monetary fine of $5,000 or less.
Nothing that would impact the chase in any way, I don't think.
Yeah.
And we'll do the last one from Sean. If you work at Stewart-Haas Racing, how do you fix Kevin Harvick's pit crew problem? Do you get the guys to do better that are on the team now, or do you completely switch teams?
I think we're at a tough time because, now, let's say that they decided and they had a meeting and they said we need to switch it up. You got 1 race to get ready for the playoffs. And there's some chemistry that goes into making this happen. Maybe you identify a guy or two and you don't handicap your entire team by making a switch. But if you try to bring in an entire group, unless it's a team that's working together somewhere else, like the swap we saw a couple of years ago, I think you're playing with fire to do it with only 1 race.
And it's not just one guy either, so it's multiple different.
Yeah, it's tough. They're in a tough situation.
I think you bring in a new team. Listen, this is not a new issue for these guys. This has been
But
happening all year.
Where do you get them?
They've been trying to fix this all year, and clearly it's not working. You got
Danica's crew.
And maybe that's something
maybe
you
that's
look
your
at.
answer.
Yeah.
But see, the other problem here is we have the spotlights on the
Oh,
Harvick crew so much more
the pressure is.
because of where he's running. So other teams are probably having these same issues. We just don't see it as much.
Yeah, and the other thing is, when you spend a lot of time at the front, there's a lot better chance you're losing positions on pit road than when you're running 8th, 10th, 12th all the time.
Tough to gain positions from first.
That's right. That's exactly right. CJ, that was good. You feel good about that?
That's what I
Absolutely. What do you
All
guys picks for Richmond?
Yeah, picks for Richmond. Oh, by the way, someone picked Truex for Darlington last week. I would throw that out there. Picks for
Hey,
Richmond.
congratulations, Russell.
Go
Nice
ahead.
job.
Who picks for Richmond? What do you got? Max, where are you going?
I'm going to go with Carl Edwards.
Carl Edwards to get the sweep.
You go first.
I go first.
Oh, what? You wanna
I'm
give away
gonna
your pick?
I'm gonna pick Matt Kenseth to win at Richmond.
Which JGR driver are you going with?
Uh,
You picked all the JGR drivers
Penske
last
swept
week.
there
so-
last year. You could take a Penske guy.
they didn't sleep there last year.
They didn't. It
No.
was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I'll go Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin, the hometown boy. Okay,
He's
so
on
there
the
you have it.
best career streak of his right now.
Okay, good. He's on a roll. All right, thanks, fellas. Remember, get that subscription at iTunes so you can play along, listen at Google Play. We appreciate you watching on Facebook. Tune in on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.